The Galactic Council convened in a chamber adorned with the emblems of its diverse species. Massive crystal structures reflected the ambient light, casting ethereal colors across the assembly. Delegates from across the cosmos filled the space, their forms a tapestry of scales, fur, and metal, each representing unique cultures and ideologies. At the center of this diplomatic circus stood General Ronald Davis of Earth, a man whose reputation had traveled light years ahead of him. As the summit began, tensions simmered just below the surface. The recently discovered star system, rich in resources, held the promise of prosperity or conflict, depending on how the negotiations unfolded. The Council was accustomed to diplomacy, adept at weaving alliances and navigating the labyrinth of interstellar politics. However, humanity's invitation was born from desperation, a fact known only to the General and a select few back on Earth. General Davis, with his sharp features and cold demeanor, was not there to charm. He had been tasked with a single mission: secure Earth's share of the resources, or risk plunging his planet into chaos. He scanned the assembly, locking eyes with Chancellor Vri of the Treshik, a race known for their formidable physicality and cunning. Vri wore an expression of both curiosity and disdain, a reflection of the Treshik's superiority complex over lesser races. "Welcome, esteemed delegates," Vri began, his voice echoing through the chamber. "Today, we gather not merely as individuals, but as guardians of our futures. The resources of the recently discovered star system belong to all of us. We must negotiate wisely." As the discussions unfolded, representatives took turns presenting their species' needs and desires, their voices rising and falling like waves crashing against the shores of a distant world. General Davis remained quiet, his expression inscrutable, carefully weighing his words and strategies. The tension grew, and he sensed the Council's undercurrents of unease. Earth had been on the brink of collapse for years, teetering on the edge of a resource crisis that threatened to unravel society itself. Finally, it was Davis's turn to speak. He rose, commanding the attention of the chamber. "Esteemed members of the Council," he began, his voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of steel. "We come here not merely as supplicants, but as equals. Earth has faced its challenges, and we have risen to meet them. However, our situation is dire, and we need resources from the new star system." The Council members shifted uneasily. It was not a request but an assertion of Earth's desperation. He paused, allowing his words to sink in before delivering the ultimate shock. "But let me be clear, we don't negotiate. We want war, and we annihilate." A heavy silence descended upon the chamber, thick and palpable. Murmurs erupted as Council members exchanged glances, their expressions a mix of disbelief and panic. Davis could see the immediate effect of his declaration, the alarm in Vria's eyes, the shifting postures of delegates who suddenly felt exposed. They were caught off guard, and the facade of diplomacy began to crack. Chancellor Vri, recovering first, stood tall, his muscular frame exuding authority. "You threaten us? You, who have barely survived on your own planet?" His voice dripped with incredulity and a hint of anger. "Such bravado will lead to your extinction." General Davis remained unfazed. He had anticipated the backlash. "I am not here to play games, Chancellor. Earth is willing to fight for its survival. What choice do you leave us?" His words were calculated, designed to ignite fear and uncertainty among the Council. As chaos unfolded, Dr. Ethan Cole, a diplomat from Earth, observed the rising tension with keen interest. He was a master of subterfuge, an architect of the very chaos that Davis had unleashed. He had known that the General's declaration would incite panic, but it also presented a unique opportunity. Behind the scenes, he was ready to weave his own web of deception, exploiting the Council's fear for humanity's benefit. The Council floor erupted in arguments, with factions forming in a matter of moments. Some members rallied in support of a preemptive strike against Earth, while others argued for diplomacy. As voices clashed, General Davis reveled in the disarray he had sown, but his victory was bittersweet. He knew that Earth's bluff relied not just on his declaration but on the hidden truths lurking beneath the surface. And lurking beneath that surface was a dark secret, a discovery made by Earth's intelligence agency about the Treshik. They had been developing a biological superweapon capable of annihilating weaker species. If the Council could be manipulated into revealing their own hand, the balance of power might shift, and Earth could secure its survival. As the Council continued to spiral into chaos, General Davis felt a surge of adrenaline. This was only the beginning of a high-stakes game where the lines between allies and enemies were blurred. The tension crackled in the air like static electricity, and with each moment the stakes climbed higher. In this tumultuous arena of interstellar politics, Davis understood that every word, every gesture, could tip the scales toward war or peace. The next moves would be crucial. With the fate of humanity hanging in the balance, the real game was just beginning. As the chaos of General Davis's declaration reverberated through the chamber, panic took hold of the Galactic Council. Delegates exchanged frantic whispers, their previously united front splintering under the weight of fear and suspicion. Rhea's imposing presence, once a symbol of authority, now seemed diminished, shadowed by the implications of the human threat. "Prepare our fleets!" a delegate from the warlike Dromarian faction barked, his voice cutting through the noise. "We must strike before they can gather strength." His eyes glinted with a primal desire for conflict, a call to arms that echoed the fears swelling among the assembly. "Hold!" Rhea's voice boomed, reclaiming some semblance of order. "We cannot allow ourselves to be governed by fear. We need to understand what drives this madness. Earth may be bluffing." General Davis stood resolute, an immovable figure in a tempest. His steely gaze roamed the chamber, absorbing the tumult around him. He was not merely a soldier, he was a tactician orchestrating a complex psychological game. In his mind, he calculated every possible response, preparing for the ripple effects of his gambit. Meanwhile, Dr. Ethan Cole, a key diplomat from Earth and a master of manipulation, saw the opportunity to further exploit the chaos. He had anticipated this moment, preparing a delicate web of deceit that could ensnare the Council members. As he observed the fracturing alliances, he knew he must act swiftly. With a determined stride, Cole approached a cluster of anxious delegates, weaving through the growing discord. He leaned in, his voice a conspiratorial whisper. "Have you considered that this could be a ruse? Perhaps they aim to distract us while they fortify their defenses. What if they possess intelligence that we have yet to uncover?" The words hung in the air, potent and dangerous. Several delegates nodded, their expressions shifting from shock to contemplation. Cole's deft manipulation of their fears bore fruit, sowing seeds of doubt about Earth's intentions. "Who among us truly understands the extent of Earth's military capabilities?" Cole continued, his voice steady. "Perhaps we should question whether Vree and the Treshik have something to hide." The suggestion hung like a shadow, casting suspicion on Vree, who had become increasingly defensive. As Cole spoke, Vree sensed the shifting tides. "You dare question our integrity?" he retorted, his temper flaring. "Our technology is superior, and we have no reason to fear an inferior race." The Treshik's pride was palpable, but the cracks in his bravado were becoming evident. Cole, undeterred, shifted his focus. "Then why not demonstrate your trust in us? Let us join forces to investigate Earth's claims. Only through transparency can we safeguard our interests." His proposal, shrouded in the guise of diplomacy, subtly placed the Treshik on the defensive. Rhea's eyes narrowed, calculating the ramifications of Cole's proposition. "You wish to form an alliance against Earth?" He paused, weighing his options. "Your treachery knows no bounds, human. But I will not be intimidated." Meanwhile, tension escalated within the Council, each member grappling with the implications of the escalating crisis. The Valerians, known for their peaceful disposition, were torn between their instincts for diplomacy and the fear of being overrun by a militaristic Earth. "We must call for calm," one of their representatives urged, her voice trembling. "Let us negotiate rather than prepare for war." But fear had taken root. The Dromarians rallied behind their warlike instincts, advocating for a preemptive strike. "They seek to undermine us. We cannot afford to wait." The chamber buzzed with conflicting opinions, the once cohesive council now a battleground of ideologies. As this fray unfolded, General Davis remained a stoic observer. He understood that every heated exchange served a purpose. The Council's division was a step toward his ultimate goal, to shift the focus away from Earth's fragility and expose the Treshik's secret development of the superweapon. The turning point came when an aide delivered a holographic data packet to Vree. The Treshik leader's expression darkened as he absorbed its contents. "What is this?" Vree demanded, irritation bubbling beneath the surface. Cole seized the moment, stepping forward with feigned concern. "Chancellor, it's imperative that we investigate this information thoroughly. If there's a threat, we must address it swiftly to prevent any catastrophe." He maintained a facade of concern, knowing that the data contained incriminating evidence against the Treshik. As Vria's anger boiled over, a fracture formed between him and the other council members. "You think to intimidate me with false accusations? My people are the bulwark against chaos." Davis sensed that the tides were shifting in his favor. "Perhaps it's time for the council to consider the truth," he interjected, his voice cool and commanding. "If we are to navigate this turmoil, we must confront not just Earth's actions but the secrets that lurk within your ranks, Chancellor." The chamber fell silent, tension thickening the air. The focus shifted to Vree, who now stood at the center of scrutiny. The alliance that once seemed solid was fracturing, and the distrust that Davis had ignited was burning bright. As the council grappled with their collective anxiety and suspicion, Dr. Cole felt a surge of triumph. The chaos he had anticipated was unfolding, and the council was turning against itself. He exchanged a knowing glance with Davis, their silent communication reinforcing their resolve. In this atmosphere of uncertainty, the stakes had never been higher. The narrative of war loomed large, but Davis and Cole understood that the real battle lay in manipulating perceptions, wielding the power of information, and unveiling the Treshik's dark secrets before it was too late. As the session adjourned, members departed, their minds swirling with fear and doubt. The council had entered a labyrinth of intrigue and subterfuge, and each move would determine whether peace or war would emerge from the shadows. With the fate of humanity at stake, the game had just begun, and both sides prepared for the inevitable clash that lay ahead. The atmosphere in the Galactic Council chamber had transformed into a cauldron of distrust and animosity. With every passing moment, the fracture lines deepened between the delegates. General Davis and Dr. Ethan Cole stood poised, watching the unfolding drama with an intensity that belied their calm exteriors. "Chancellor Vree is hiding something," a voice from the Valerian delegation rang out, shattering the delicate silence. The speaker, a wiry diplomat named Varen, had grown weary of the Treshik leader's posturing. "If we do not act, we risk our very existence." Vria's eyes blazed with indignation. "You dare question my integrity? Your fears are unfounded. Earth is the real threat here, armed with deceit rather than weaponry." His frustration manifested in a tense posture, revealing the vulnerability hidden beneath his bravado. The chamber erupted again, each delegate fiercely defending their stance. The Dromarians clamored for war, insisting that an immediate military response was necessary. "If we do not strike first, we may be annihilated," one of their leaders shouted, a look of feral determination on his face. Cole seized the moment, recognizing a critical opportunity. He stepped forward, his voice steady yet compelling. "Let us not lose sight of the bigger picture. If there is a threat, we need to identify it before rushing into conflict. Perhaps an investigation into the Treshik's activities is warranted." He turned his gaze toward Vree, feigning concern while carefully masking his intent. The council hesitated, caught between fear of Earth and suspicion of Treshik. The tension was palpable, with every member weighing their next words as if they were weapons. Meanwhile, Davis, sensing the shift in the council's energy, readied himself for the final gambit. He knew that the key to securing Earth's safety lay in exposing the Treshik's dark secret, the biological superweapon that could eliminate entire species. "Chancellor," he interjected, his tone authoritative, "your people's actions are under scrutiny. Perhaps now is the time to come clean." At this, Vree stiffened, his carefully curated mask of confidence slipping. "We have nothing to hide," he declared, but the quiver in his voice betrayed him. "Do you? Or are you simply stalling for time?" Davis pressed, his piercing gaze locking onto Vria's. "We have intelligence that suggests otherwise." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. "You are not the only ones with secrets." As the delegates processed his insinuation, unease spread through the chamber like wildfire. Cole seized the moment to amplify the pressure. "Perhaps if we shared information, we could uncover the truth. If Vri has a biological weapon, then we are all at risk." His eyes flicked to the other council members, gauging their reactions. Vria's face contorted with anger and fear, the facade of control crumbling. "You lie!" he hissed, his voice low and dangerous. "You are grasping at shadows, hoping to distract us from your own weaknesses." A ripple of dissent swept through the council as several members began to murmur among themselves. The idea that the Treshik might harbor a hidden threat ignited their fear, and Vria's credibility began to falter. In the chaos, Kylon, the respected historian, stepped forward, his voice a calm oasis amidst the storm. "We must seek the truth, not just for ourselves but for the stability of the entire galaxy. If there is a weapon, we must act before it's too late." His words resonated with many, rekindling a flicker of unity among the factions. Davis sensed the moment slipping from Vria's grasp. "Then let us uncover the facts. We need an independent investigation to ensure the safety of all species." His tone shifted from commanding to almost pleading, tapping into the Council's desire for peace over war. As murmurs of agreement spread, Vria's facade cracked further. The Treshik leader, now trapped, could feel the walls closing in around him. "You are making a grave mistake," he warned, desperation creeping into his voice. "I will not stand for this humiliation." But the tide had turned. The once solid alliances began to fracture, and as the council debated, Davis and Cole exchanged a determined glance. They had orchestrated this chaos perfectly, forcing the council to confront the very real threat posed by Vri and the Treshik. In a calculated move, Davis leaned forward. "We possess evidence of your weapons development, Chancellor. Evidence that will surface if you continue to obstruct this investigation." His voice dripped with conviction, a stark reminder that they had the upper hand. Vri, cornered and seething, faced a choice: concede to the investigation and risk exposing his people's transgressions, or continue to fight and possibly ignite a war against a galaxy already questioning his integrity. The air crackled with tension, the council members holding their collective breath, awaiting Vria's response. Finally, Vri exhaled, his shoulders slumping as he realized the futility of resistance. "Very well," he spat, his eyes blazing with rage. "I will allow the investigation. But mark my words, this will not end here." With the Chancellor's reluctant concession, the atmosphere shifted yet again. What had begun as a summit rife with conflict had morphed into a moment of precarious peace, albeit fragile and fleeting. The Council had become a battlefield of ideals, and the ramifications of this encounter would echo across the galaxy. As the session adjourned, General Davis and Dr. Cole stood in the shadows, their expressions unreadable. They had outmaneuvered the Council, but the game was far from over. The political landscape had shifted, and the impending investigation promised new challenges. Davis understood that survival would not come without cost, and the revelations still to come could alter the fate of humanity. The lines between friend and foe remained blurred, and in this galaxy of uncertainty, every decision would be a gamble. As the delegates departed, the true battle for Earth's future had only just begun.